work on an asymmetrical layer. So this section right here, still pulling it straight out, still checking for a clue. And when I look at hair, you know, you got like that inch and a half wiggle room. So sometimes you get it dead right, but you got to look at formation of curl. So how short can I cut this? I looked at her formation of curl, so when I saw that first bend, I know that's the top of the bend. I can cut it that short. If I take it above the top of that bend, we're going to have a little situation going on, a little what I call Sichitanya. So as you're working through there, just keep an eye on the bend of the hair, because it's, especially with guys, that's a big one. And once you cut it too short, you just got to commit to it to be too short. And I'll let people know, like, oh, it's a little short, so when it starts to grow out, it's going to go through 2 stages. It's going to go through boing stage, and then it's going to get past the bend and start to lay down properly. So here's some hardwired while you're working through that. But that's a really important thing to take into consideration when you're looking at the formation of the curl, because then that gives you a clue as to how short you can cut the section of hair that's in the crown. And so right now I'm in the back, so I'm pretty much just going straight vertical. I'm just making sure those have a nice blend together. And this side's drying, so if I start comparing, I might get a little thrown off. So before I actually do compare, I'm just going to give this side a little bit of moisture. Make sure the moisture content's balanced before I start checking through my haircut and be like, oh man, this side's a little off. That's happened to me. It's like a bummer. Because then it's like, actually it was on, but it was dry. And then you end up making it shorter, then you're like, wait a minute. Now this side looks lower. Next thing you know, they got a 0 fade. You're like, yeah, why do you have your clippers out? Oh no, it's just, I gotta do a little technique I learned at Premiere. It happens. But now, she's got tons of hair up here to work with. So I got my sides in there. Everything's laying nicely. Cool. Check this side. And then she's got all this nice hair we're going to play with when it's dry. So now as I go through the top, I know that she wants this side to be where the length is. I know, again, she's got tons of hair on top of her head. So I want to be able to put some layers through here. So I'm going to actually work asymmetrical. So if I was standing in the back, all I'm going to do is take my body, I'm just going to pivot to the side, and I'm going to start my haircut here. So this is going to be the shortest length. This is still going to be the longest length. And I'm just going to be coming across the top of the head. Any sections on top of the head, pretty much any way that you section them, they're all vertical. You know, there's this big debate, like, is this vertical, is that vertical? Well, if it's on top of the head, it's all vertical. Because when we measure the head, we measure from the apex out. So this is vertical, that's vertical, that's vertical, that's vertical, that's vertical, that's vertical. So I'm just going to use vertical as the term. But I am going to shift these vertical sections on an angle, so I'm actually going to be working from the top all the way to the corner where she wants the length, working it one section at a time. And I may throw in a little stationary guide at one point if I want to exaggerate the length. So initially I'm going to start with a traveling guide, and I'm going to actually kind of take a look and see if I decide to keep it a traveling guide or not. The other thing that I'm going to do through here is I'm going to disconnect it a little bit from the underneath. So as I bring all this hair forward, I'm coming over here, that's where I'm going for. I want you to notice where the length's at right now. I'm going to start right here in the back. I'm going to take your head down. I'm going to be taking sections. Actually, I'm going to probably section towards myself, so I'm going to comb the hair this way just to make it a little easier as I section through. So I'm going to take the section right across the crown, comb it back, and then as I pick this section up into the air, I'm going to be cutting overhand. So I'm going to look at the underneath, and I'm going to go a little bit past the underneath, and I'm also going to create a little bit of a diagonal with my fingers. So I'm going to cut a little uphill line right through here. So what that's going to do is it's going to leave this right part of the section just slightly shorter, and it's going to get slightly heavier this way. So the whole thing's going to get slightly heavier this way. Why am I doing that? Because I know that all the hair is getting longer and heavier that way. So what I'm doing is I'm taking off a little bit of bulk. So this hair comes to, it kind of comes to like this, and then goes whoosh like that. So it takes away a little bit of that bulk and kind of bends right into her face. So just think, I could have just done it flat and it all would have just went like that, but because I'm doing it like this, it's going to push this way and then it's going to slide right down because I'm shifting the weight. That's just a little way you can add more movement to a section of hair. So this one's all overhand. I'm going to work right across, and there's not that much to work on that side. So I'm just cutting knuckles, fingers down, fingertips down, knuckles up. And I'm going to work into my next section. So these go right across the top of the head. And these can be about the same, a comb's thickness. This is number 2, so 2 is going to comb all the way back into 1. I'm going to pick up 1, get my fingers in there, and I'm going to cut uphill. It's going to give me that little push uphill. I'm cutting right to my other guy. My body position is going to stay the same though. So I'm going to stay standing right in the back. Go right across the top. And there, out of the way. Head down some. Pull all the hair back. Now I'm just over the apex. I'm going to still be using a stationary guide, so I'm still combing all the way back into 1. I'm going to see how much hair I have to cut off. Oops. Sounds like my phone coming through the Bluetooth.
Sounds like Morse code.
You're right. That's a warning. That's like your body position, your body position. I got sensors on my legs. So I'm pulling all this hair across and I'm cutting uphill. Now because I've made it all the way here and I didn't have that much hair, I know that I might not have that much more hair to cut. I like where I'm going with this though. I like the exaggerated length, so I'm going to keep my stationary guide. I said I might go to I might start with traveling or do stationary first, but I'm going to keep it stationary. So meaning I'm just going to keep combing everything all the way back to the crown. So I get more extreme exaggeration as I move forward. And there's not going to be very much hair to cut because I have all this hair coming back, but there's a little, oops, all this hair coming back. And you can see I'm taking a little bit of weight off of this outside as I get further up the line. And that's okay. And the other thing that I know is, remember I had that little hangover piece that was hanging over this side, so that's going to be included in this outside. So that'll keep a little bit of length, but I'll take some off of it. And the biggest thing when you're doing this kind of condensed cutting is that it's just combing. Nothing really there. A little bit right there. Probably a little bit over here too. And this is my last section. I'm going to pick up all this hair, comb it all back, treat it like it's long enough to make it, even if it's not. Just like comb through everything nice and clean, pull it all back to the crown. A little bit of dust there, nothing major. A little bit right through there. So I was able to really kind of bulk removal here, add texture, add layers, and then I'm going to comb it all back forward so we can see the length again. Remember where it was at before? It was down to the chin. And it still is. So that over direction really helped me remove weight, a little bit of bulk through here, but still maintain maximum amount of length as it moves forward. So now I'm just going to add a little skinny serum to her hair, and we're going to get her dry. Now here's the biggest thing. When she's ready to give a blow dry a shot, she's going to use the comb on the short stuff. Anything she wants to be a little smoother, she can use the comb and just blow dry the little front area. She can use the comb on the fringe and blow dry the fringe. So I'm going to show her how to do that if she ever decides she wants to actually do a little blow dry. So I'm gonna have her actually section off the front, and then the rest of this hair, she can just clip out of the way if she has a clip. If she doesn't have a clip, that's fine, just move it out of the way. Like a pump, that's as much as you need. And that'll be enough. Just rub it on your hands, warm it up, distribute the product, and then just work it through all of your hair. Make sure you get those ends good. Work it through. And then the biggest thing, just like we did with the sculpting foam, make sure you give it a little comb through so you distribute it over everything else. Cool. And then we're going to go in with a little dry. And the nice thing about the Super Skinny Serum too, it's going to help your hair dry a lot faster, cut down about 40% of your dry time. And so with a comb, you can use wide tooth or you can use fine tooth. You're just going to dry this right at the root and just stretch it right across your forehead. Fine tooth will just pull it tighter. And just focus on the root just so you can get it to lay down. All this little hair, just combing right in the direction you want it to lay. And as you get the base dry, then you can start working towards the ends. And when you work your sides, same thing. Work it towards the face, work it away from the face. Work it towards the face. And this we can move that out of the way. Almost hit my turbo booster. So the biggest thing with this is just a little back and forth. Just keep that airflow going right down the cuticle. And I'm not needing to go on super high heat with this or super high airflow. So I'm just trying to get control of the hair. And the top, the very top where it has more length, I'll go into a brush. And then I'll use the brush also to catch the length in the front on the bottom of her longer disconnection. And just keep that hair moving. Very nice.
And Sonny, just an observation, you know, I've noticed from watching the different cutters and stylists from platform to DJ to Sassoon people, I've noticed that a lot of the Sassoon, they repetitively go, I mean, they'll go over that piece of hair sometimes 100 times. They just keep going over it until it behaves and does it. And then it seems to have just such a glisten and shine to it.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about. It's all about just getting that control. And that's where the comb comes in. If you think about the comb, it's kind of like your 407 brush on steroids. The 407 is nice because it has a lot of teeth and it pulls the hair tight. Well, the comb has even more teeth and it pulls the hair even tighter. And so the big thing is you teach this to a guest. It's a huge little shortcut, I guess you could say, for them if they're trying to control hair. Like, she's not going to blow dry her entire head, but she might want to hit the back a little bit as it grows out. She might want to hit just the fringe if she's trying to get it a little smoother. And then she might just power dry the rest, or she might use a brush. But just to show her what she can do, and it's something that she can do. And then in the future, if she's trying to do a little bit of a different style, I can show her another way to style it. And then I'll go into the 407. Now when I use the 407, it's got a firmer bristle, it's got that rubber gum base, it's going to stretch the hair a little bit more. That base heats up so it almost acts like an iron. I can get more polish to the hair. You know, so that's where I like to go in the top, use a little bit more of that stretching ability. You could also use a 413. You know, I've even used the 427. I mean, the main thing is you want tension and you want stretch. So what's going to give you the most tension and stretch? And then you want to add heat to that equation. And that's going to give you the stretch that you need and the finish that you want. So with this, I'm going to be using multiple directions. So I'll be going one way, then I'll be going the opposite way. And this is where I'm joining in the top and the sides. And I'm following the growth pattern too. So I know some of her hair is growing this way, some of it's growing that way. And you gotta have leverage too, so it means if you have to lower them in the chair, you have to have them tip their head a certain way so you can get leverage, you can get above the hair, and make sure you're getting the air flowing down the cuticle. That's gonna be a big thing. And ultimately, I know we're going to be wearing the hair this side, so that's where I'll end up finishing. So even though I'm going both directions initially, my finishing direction is going to be towards the way I'm going to wear the hair. But initially, when I go both directions, what I'm trying to do is get a lot of movement going on. And just follow that brush. And as I come in through the front here, I'll start doing a little bit of lift and stretch. Just move this hair back a little just so I can get in there, pick up and stretch.
You know, for me, I found it so important to watch you guys finish. Because
What's that?
Watching you finish hair, whenever you do a precision cut, I feel like that's just as important as the cut.
Oh yeah, yeah, totally. Because now you have to finish the hair, and then you actually have to finish the haircut. So yeah, if you don't set it up right, When you're doing those shorter precision cuts, I mean, the finish is, yeah, it's like your bread and butter. When you start finishing hair, like, your life depends on it. And just think about it, if you weren't able to cut this hair anymore, you know, and you just got the chance to finish it, that's really it. You have to like let it be done after that. You're going to want to make sure you put a really good finish on it. And then once I got the roots dry and I'm doing that last little bit on the ends, that's where I'll do a little bit of lifting. And I'll just focus on that mid shaft, focus on those ends, and just go slow and steady as I go through the ends. Just so I can make sure I get a right amount of heat on it. You do her color as well? Huh? Who does her color? She does? Just check it, make sure everything's dry. Now, as you're thinking about this haircut, you know, I think she's gonna probably be thinking about like color too. Because I automatically, as soon as I'm doing a haircut, I'm thinking color, thinking what would I do? Like she's got this natural shadow under here, which is gonna be a little bit darker. Because the haircut is such a strong shape, when I start thinking about color, I'm thinking about some bolder placements. But I'm looking at her skin tone, looking at her eyes, I'm seeing like this violet kind of red coming through there, cooler reds, maybe a little 1A, something really dark that kind of sits under there if there was a shadow with this V, these series of V's, maybe V's and RVs that come over the top. It'll just pop everything out. So that's like all one color, and then I'm doing maybe 2 to 3 colors on the top, maybe offset like triangles on the top of maybe like a 3, a 5, and a 7. And I mean, it would just light this thing up. Because now you've got the house. So now what she's got to do is she's got to decorate it for you. And that's kind of when I think about when I'm doing my haircuts, you know, I'm always thinking like, okay, what do I need to do to finish this? Because I cut it, but it's kind of like it's missing its other half. It's missing its color story. So now you've got this haircut story going on. Now you just got to get that color story happening. So we're going to go through, put a little polish on it. Then I'm going to put my signature on it. So we'll use the Neuro. You have one of these?
I do not.
Okay, cool. So the Neuro, nice thing about it is it's super smart. It's got a little microchip. You have an iPhone or an Android?
Android.
Awesome. So you got a smartphone. This is a smart iron. It's got a little microchip in there that's going to actually tell you, what heat to put it at. So you look at your texture of hair. You can set it by medium, coarse, finer texture. It's going to turn off on its own, so you don't have to burn down the house when you're writing down what's this out here, 19? You're not like, oh God, left my iron on.
The boyfriend would appreciate that very much.
Yeah, right? So it turns off on its own, but the coolest thing about it is it protects your hair the whole time I'm using it. So that microchip is going to regulate the heat in this thing 50 times a second. It's going to make sure it's right at the same heat. So you're not having to like wonder, why isn't it working? So it happens automatically for you. And then, awesome, a little hot off the press, so she's already ahead of the game. So this is a little barrier in between the heat. So we make sure the biggest detriment to color, frizz, flyaways, it's texture and condition. So this actually will protect the color. It's got a little barrier. It's got a little extract in there. It's called rice hull. So that sits in between the heat and the hair. So as I iron it, you're going to see some of the steam that comes off of the hair, but that protective barrier is protecting me from scorching and burning the hair. So you got two tools working on your side that make your style last longer. With every haircut, especially the first time shape, it's iron work, automatic. So that needs to be talked about in the consultation if there's an extra charge for that. Because two things, I need to be able to check this haircut and make sure it's perfecto. And the only way I can do that is to really get it sleek and polished, get every little crink ironed out. So I want to make sure I do that. And then the other thing is it's going to make this last longer, so she doesn't need to wash her hair for a few days. She can wear this. And if I just did fresh color, I'm now actually closing the cuticle completely, so now that color is going to, the life of the color is going to be extended. So there's a lot of benefits in that. And if it's a service, that sounds like a service to me. So for the guest, I'm letting them know the benefits of that service, and then I'm letting them know how much that is going to be with the haircut today. And it's not optional. First time haircut shape, it's mandatory. So I'm going to put a little bit of the hot off the press over top. And I'll maybe use a little as I go. And this is super lightweight too, so everything that we're using is nice and light. Now the next phase really is just the top. I need my little iron to come through here. And I'm actually going to work that on the opposite of the way I cut it. So I cut it on those verticals going across the head, so I'm actually going to iron it the opposite way.
Sonny, do you like those combs?
These combs? Yeah. Yeah, they're nice, they're sturdy,
Yeah.
450 heat, resistant.
Where do you order yours from?
Um,
Or YS?
A lot of times YS. A lot of times, there's like Passion Beauty, I think, has them. They're a big booth at Premiere. I usually stock up there. And they last too, so that's one of the things I like. So as I'm going through with the iron work, I'm really just kind of mid-shaft to ends. I'm using 370. So mid-shaft to ends, I'll pass through once. I'll put my comb in there, I'll pass through that second time. And that should be plenty. If I need to do it a little bit more, like on the outer edge, if I feel like I need to go through that again, I'll use my fingers first, pass through once, fine-tooth comb, pass through twice, and that should be good enough. And I'm just working these just like I cut the hair, just moving from the front to the back instead of back to the front. Same thing, the tension, you'll see her head move a little bit when I put the tension on the hair. And I'll always slow down as I get to the ends, because the ends are what need the most heat. They're the oldest hair. It may have been sacrificed the most, condition may be compromised the most. So as I get to the ends, I'll always take a little bit of a slower pass to the ends. And then when the hair is hot, the other thing I'm doing, it's subtle, but it's really important, is I'm actually molding the ends. So if I come through, I kind of follow the curvature of the head. So I give it a little bit of a curve. So I'm not beveling it, I'm not trying to bend it, but I am giving it a little bit of a curve as I get to the ends. But then while it's nice and hot, and I set it there, I can also use my comb or use my finger just to mold it a little bit, just so it sits exactly where I want it to sit. You see her head moving? Am I hurting you, Shyann?
No, you're good.
Sometimes we think like, we might be hurting people, so we don't want to use tension. I'm not trying to pull her head off her of her body, but I am getting that tension to stretch that hair a little bit.
I have a hard hand.
You do?
Yeah.
Cool. Me too. Just get that little bit of stretch. Give it that little bit of bend. And then when I comb through, if it's still hot, I'll use the Y tooth so I don't disrupt it too much and mold it in a different direction. And if I did my job with the blow drying and the comb drying, then my side should be set. Everything else should be set. I shouldn't have to worry about any of that. All the way at the top here. Get that comb in there. Follow it through. All the way on the other side. This way. And given it that little bevel, so I'm just kind of thinking like how the head actually bends. And then I'll just check on the cross. We cross-check everything else. Sometimes we don't cross-check our iron work. I'm just checking it on the cross section just to make sure I got all those little bits that should join up. And everything that's kind of parietal down, those hairs, I mean there's some that are a little bit long, but those hairs should all have been in the comb, so there's not too much to do there. Maybe just a little, very little bit. And anything that's kind of shorter, if I need to use the back of the iron, it gets a little hot there. Kind of check that out. And now I've got her head in a great position to do a little bit of refinement. So this is the raw kind of shape. And now I'm going to go through, I'm going to do my detail work, which is going to be around the perimeter. I'm going to go through and add a little bit of texture to the top. I'm going to look at everything perimeter first, and then I'm going to move in from there. Kind of like landscape. Awesome. So on the sides here, I'm really digging like the head shape that I'm building, but I do want to maybe strengthen this up a little bit. So I'm going to use the tip of my scissors right on the face. It's like doing a little edge up.
I always feel like my neck hurts a little bit doing this.
Just keep practicing.
Now when I do that, the main thing that it looks fancier than it is, the still blade is on her skin, so the other blade can't touch her. So the still blade sits on the skin, and then the one that's moving is doing all this. So this one just sliding through. And then I'll comb through a second time.
You hear a pin drop in here.
And that just adds just a nice little touch to it. And remember those arrows? So that was a decision, you know, that I had to make. Like, I like her cheekbones and I want to kind of draw attention to them. So by adding that little point there, it sits right there. It draws your eye to it. When you look at her from the front, you can't help but notice it. When you look at her from the side, you can't help but notice it. So I'm using that like a little arrow. And then as I work up, I'm going to move that ear down. I'm going to comb some of this hair back behind the ear. And I'm going to work my way up. So remove some of that hair. So just the hair that's over the ear. So I comb it down. And if I need to, I can go overhand. But now my moving blade's going against the skin, so I'll just be a little cautious there. Make sure I keep that ear out of the way. She probably wants to keep that for a little while.
Oh, so it's like being an artist. Like Van Gogh or something.
Right? Now there is a little hair that is sitting like right on here that I want to push. So what I'll do with that is I'll come from the back and I'll pull the ear back. I'll put my blade in there. And I'll just cut down, it's a little bit of slide cutting, just to remove that one little hair that was sitting in there, so I got a little bit of a push from the back and from the side, or from the front. Do a little couple of hairs there. And get into multiple angles just so you can kind of see as you're working. And I don't have the mirror right in front of me, or else every couple of seconds I'd be turning her into the mirror, so I can really, like barbers do that, so when I'm doing this detail work, I will turn her head, like turn that way and I'll look in the mirror. Turn that way, I'll look in the mirror, so I can really see, because 2 to 3 feet away from your work's the best view you'll ever have. Like your neighbor can see what you're doing and not doing better than you'll ever see, because you're in it. You can't see when you're in it. It's kind of like, that's why everybody drives around with dirty cars. Because they're in the car. They don't know, they're not looking at the outside, and everybody else is like, damn, wash me, right? So as I go through here, this is my graduation, and the main thing I was trying to do is like take that graduation and cut it pretty disciplined so I can minimize how much I have to do afterwards. Now, there's my disconnection, that's from the top. So I do have that hanging over. So as it's hanging over, I'm going to still let it hang over, but I'm going to do a little bit of a lift, and I'm just going to come in from the sides, and I'm just going to slightly elevate the comb as I cut through it just to get a little blend, and I'm moving my scissors back and forth from the top into the side. So very, very little bit of point cutting going through here. So I'm picking it up, I'm elevating it slowly right up towards the ceiling, and I'm moving my scissors back and forth, just to get a gradual little blend in there. But I don't want to start going in and doing a bunch of deep point cutting because I built that little ridge. I want to keep it. And then I'm going to come through the back line. That's where we have opportunity. So as I go in, I'm going to look at this. I'm going to kind of decide on maybe a little shape, maybe get something creative going on there. If I see one side stronger than the other, maybe this side can do a little something there. So I'm going to kind of visualize it first, and then I'm going to go in. And this is kind of where you get to decide. There's no diagram for this. I mean, cleaning the hairs off the neck first. Start there. And then I'm going to really kind of pick a target and see what I can do here. Let's see. Alright. So first thing I'll do, I'm going to come in with a little bit of a line through here. I'm just going to use the points of my scissors and little bit by little bit.
Can you turn her just a little bit?
and down. And
And
so
why
this
is
is,
that?
what's that?
Why do you have to go up and down?
Just so I can get a little bit of a, kind of like cross-checking. So I'm gonna go one way, get the line, tighten it up, then go the other way. And this is something that I could probably take a trimmer and do in like 2 minutes, but I just like pushing myself. You know, cutting on the skin with the scissor just challenges you a little bit more, it pushes you. You know, and the guys, when I think about my guys, I don't use clippers when I cut their hair. Even if I cut it down to the skin, I'm like scissor and comb. I'll get like a real flat comb. I can take them from basically a 0 up with just a scissor and comb and do their whole edge up with the scissor and comb. And they respect that because they don't get that anywhere. I could probably do it in half the time with a clipper, but then again, I can charge accordingly. So I'm here, just clean this off. Let's tighten this up. So kind of working with her natural hairline. There's tons of stuff you can do here. I mean, you can put, you know, shapes, designs, letters, numbers, you know, whatever you decide you want to do. And then you could also work with it more natural, which I think I'm liking today. Work with it more natural. And then as I move up the other side, start at the bottom here, move up. Back through, so I'll just kind of work from side to side until I get the visual. And this is where really, you know, getting as eye level with it as you can helps. You can really see what's going on. So you have a chair, you have a, you know, a really great hydraulic that pumps them up really, really high for people like me. That works. Looks like I got a little bit more on this side. And then I'm just going to fan that out some so I can see how it's moving. So if it does move across her neck, it still comes down to that little point right there in the middle. And then I just got to keep working this. So now I'm already worked up, so I'm just going to work down here. And then I'm always pulling hair towards the line. The main reason I'm doing that is just so I can see if I missed any, because you will always miss a little bit of hair. So you just pull the hair towards the line, you'll see what you missed, and then come back through it again. There's no rule that says you can't go through it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. Now I just got to shift this hair to the other side of your head. Comb all this hair down over the ridge, and I got this little disco that's hanging out here, so I'll pick that up. Move that over. And some of this hair that is hanging down, I'm going to let it hang down. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to lift up. I'm going to point into it. And I'm going to slowly chip away at that. So it still hangs over, but I give it a little bit of a blend through the bottom there. Slowly pick it up. Move the scissor back and forth. Move the scissor back and forth, just using the tips. And just takes off a little bit of that edge on the top of the grab. I'll just come into the side here, same idea. Pick up, lift up, and some of the disconnections hanging over. And the key is just keep the blades moving quick. You want to always keep your blades when you're point cutting, when you're scissor over comb, any kind of cutting like that, the key is always move the blades a little bit quicker. I'm at the ear again, so I'll pull the ear down. On this side, I'm going to work from the bottom, work up towards the top of the ear. Then I'll work from behind, pull that hair forward. And just edge it up right into what I cut from underneath. I'll move that a couple times both ways until I'm back to the front and I'm at this point again. And then on this side, because it's going down, now the moving blade is going to be against the skin, so I got to be a little bit more cautious. I just brace my fingers right underneath the screw and just move a little slower as I move down towards the point. Do it once. Go back there, do it again. And this side is the side that you can definitely run a bigger wrist to cut somebody. So just brace and just little nip, 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 nip. Remember one time we were working at a show, and it was the night before. We were at I think it was Signature Gathering, and I was working with DJ back there cutting models, and I literally watched him for maybe 40 minutes just cut a fringe. Dang! But he did it with just the tips of his scissors. And if you've ever seen some of his work, like that one picture where I showed you Vidal Sassoon and what the future looks like that's all done with a scissor. There's no clippers, there's no, comb it. And that would be quick and easy, but when you're doing it like this, I was like, is he even cutting hair? Like, and we were backstage, everyone's gone. Just me, him, and the model. And he's just like this. And I'm just like watching, like, there's no hair. I don't see any hair. Like, and I'm like a couple of years in the game, so I'm just getting my mind blown watching this work. But it was just when you're talking about true craftsmanship, and when you see his work, then you're like, yeah, that's different. There's something about it. And that's how those guys really, all of the Sassoonis, that's how they made their name. You saw their work walking down New York City street, you're like, oh, that's one of those Vidal Sassoon haircuts. And that's what people gotta say around Spring Hill when they see oh, that's 427's work right there. And then there's a little bit of bulk right in the sideburn, so I'm just going to pick that up.